I'm Ted Kempton, Chair of the Commission. If you are here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, wall sections. Staff presents their report. We will then ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the commissioners will ask questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on Chapter 27 of the City Code of Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given at this public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence cell phones. Starting on my left, my commissioners will please introduce themselves.
Dan Myers, I'm an architect.
Elena Perez Ketchum, attorney member.
Brian Hammond, architect.
John Prokop, I practice architecture.
And then with staff, we have Ron Villa, we have Aminta Owen, and we have our attorney, Dana Crosby Collier. All right, with that, we will begin. Let's see. Reading of the minutes. Do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented and place them in the record.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Announcements?
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Ron Villa. I'm staff for Historic Preservation. Under announcements this evening, I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. We will hold one hearing this month, which is tonight. The Wednesday hearing will be canceled. We will take care of all business this evening. We did reinstate the newsletter. It's in your packet. Tampa Bricks and Mortar. It's something that we did a while back, and we felt that it was beneficial. We had some outreach from the public, and there's an interest there in reading some of the current articles that we produce through our office. Also in your packet are the staff reviews. This is to bring you current with all the administrative functions that we do throughout the month. So they are in your packet as well. If you ever have any questions, you could always call the office on that.
Thank you.
We also have a new segment that we've been doing. It's called Preservation in Progress. And I'm going to share that with you this time. So we have 4 historic districts. We try to bring you the attention of each district from time to time. This is in the Ybor City Historic District. This has 3 parcels that are attached to this Preservation in Progress segment. This was for our June 2024 segment. This is the Sanborn map illustrating the property in question. Is on the corner of 4th Avenue and Angel Oliva. There is an alley to the rear. This is the 1929 Sanborn. You see the property in question is here. You see the fabric and the density that was around the parcels in question. The yellow indicates frame construction. these were all single-family residential structures. And you see the tightness and the bond that was there in the early 20s. So the density was there. We have some structures. The pink or reddish indicates brick construction, and then the blue is concrete block. But the concentration of the fabric is usually stick construction. This is a current aerial. Once again, the property in question is on the corner of 4th Avenue and Angel Oliva Senior. You have 5th Avenue to the north. There is an active alley that I'll show you some pictures that helps to electrify the area. You see that there are some empty parcels here, so there's opportunity to move forward. We do have a lot of residential interest in the area to respect what was on the Sanborn map. This is the action that the Barrio Latino Commission took. It was for new construction for a dog park and mixed-use building with some site improvements. With the density that's coming forward, these outdoor spaces are very needed for that residential community to walk around and feel that they have some quality of life as well. So these pocket parks, if you will, are very instrumental in the success of Ybor City moving forward. We use 2 documents. We use the Ybor City Design Guidelines. The application of standards are very similar to what you have in the Architecture Review Commission. We look at height and width, which goes back to scale and massing. We look at the facade width. In Ybor City, you could build on a 25-foot wide parcel. So a lot of the concentration is a little different. As you saw on the Sanborn map, you saw the separation from the buildings were not much back in the day. For today, for building code and fire separation, there's a little greater dimension between the buildings, but it's still relaxed as much as the code allows. So moving down the application of standards, we have setback, we have spacing, we have alignment, similarity in details on forms, and building materials as well. The other document that we use is the Secretary of Standards. There are 10 generic Secretary of Standard items that are listed. 9 and 10 really deal with the new construction, and number 9 talks about additions or new construction that will not destroy the materials, the features, or the spatial relationships that characterize the historic properties. Moving down to item 10 is that additions or related new construction will be undertaken in a manner that if removed in the future, its essential form and integrity of the historic properties will be left unimpeded. This is looking at the front elevation of the structure that's there. The main floor is a restaurant, if you will, that has a veranda on 3 sides, the front, the west side, and around the back. And then upstairs is residential in nature. Looking at the form here and how it relates to the street, and then how it relates to the dog park as well. Looking just at the site where the structure is, there is some angled parking to bring parking in. Parking in Ybor City is a challenge, as it is everywhere in the city of Tampa. But then you have the view of the dog park that's here. It's surrounded with a perimeter fence. The landscaping is pushed back, so as you walk down the sidewalk, you have a little bit of relief. But this is one of those pocket parks that is welcome throughout the area. This is just kind of focusing on the landscape, the hardscape, and the signage. You see here how the signage is truncated to the corner. The fencing here, that's transparent in nature. And as I talked about how the sidewalk is unimpeded, you have the landscaping that's kind of pushed back, and then the fence even pushed back a little farther than that. This is in totality. The dog park flanks the corner. You see how it's sensitive to the area with a period appropriate fence around the dog park, and then the fence in front of the structure itself, the 2-story shotgun house, it takes on a different vocabulary that relates back to the house and would be period appropriate as well. This is from 4th Avenue, then looking from Angel Oliva. You have this area here. And this is the one area that artificial turf would be accepted and was accepted by the Barrio Latino Commission. Usually if it's in the backyard and it meets stormwater requirements, is something that this board would look at in the Borough Latino Commission, but for the dog park, it was the correct surface. And this is just looking at a street shot along 4th Avenue. This is looking at the new construction, how it integrates with a period building. Then you have 2 new construction next door to it. So you see how the streetscape and the 1-story gable ends are consistent. And then for the new construction, they added the vertical volume to the rear. So on the street, everything complements a historic street in nature, and then how sensitively you could do something in the rear to get additional square footage. So that completes this segment of preservation in progress.
Great, thank you very much, Dennis.
Moving to conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, we have our legal.
Good evening, Dana Crosby Collier from the City Attorney's Office. I'd like to ask if any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda this evening?
I have none.
Okay. And has any member engaged in any ex parte communication relating to an item on the agenda?
I have not.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Moving down to continuations, we have one reflected on our agenda, and we'll need a motion for that, and that is ARC 24-0000-244 for the address of 2101 West Marjory Avenue. This request came from the agent to be continued to Monday, July 8, 2024, 5:30 p.m. And if I could get a motion, please.
Commissioners, do I have a motion to continue?
I move to continue ARC 24-0000-244 at 2101 West Marjory Avenue to the Monday, July 8, 2024 public hearing at 5:30 p.m.
Do I see a second for the motion?
I second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. So at this time, we're ready for the swear-in. If everybody that is going to testify this evening, stand up and please raise your right hand. Minta Owen will swear us in.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony you will be giving today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Moving to the first agenda item, which is ARC 24-0000-186. This is for the address of 909 South Dakota Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. The primary structure dates back to 1910. It is contributing. The zoning is RS60. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for an accessory structure with site improvements. The zoning classification dictates the size of the structure. It could be up to 900 square foot. This project was reviewed by zoning, by transportation, solid waste, natural resources, and stormwater. And as indicated on the site plan, this project can move forward. On this site, there is only one structure, which is the primary structure that will be indicated on the site plan. And moving to the photo presentation at this time. We start with the Sanborn map to give you some historic reference. Property in question is highlighted in the green box. It does have a wraparound porch around it. It's a 2-story structure that faces Dakota. There is a usable alley in the rear that will be activated as part of this request as well. There was an accessory structure in approximately the same location that is going to be reviewed tonight. The accessory structure that is shown on the 1929 Sanborn has been removed. This is the total vicinity map of Hyde Park. As you have Bayshore Boulevard, you have Howard, you have the crosstown, and then our northern boundary is Platt. The structure is located here to give you some proximity of where it is in the overall district. This illustration is to provide that same information. You see the proximity to Bayshore Boulevard as it exists. Moving to the structure itself. This is the primary structure, which faces Dakota. This is the wraparound porch that I talked about. You see the casings around the window. There's a series of solid single windows as well on the upper level. This is looking at the primary elevation, which faces Dakota, and then the south elevation. Couldn't get too much of it because of the vegetation. And then the property that abuts on that south side. Moving back to the primary structure, which is the front elevation, the vehicular access off the primary street, and then the north elevation. That vehicular access that I spoke about, there's an apron here, the ribbons that have the infill of brick around it. From the body of the building to the fence, there's a little better than 7 foot there. The throat kind of narrows, which is here. The ribbons continue, and the ribbons continue to approximately the pad where the accessory structure was originally. This is looking from the front to the rear. The alley is in the background. Looking from the alley back towards that vehicular drive, you see a little portion of the rear, the first floor of the rear of the structure. This is just to open up that shot, what you see on the rear elevation. The condition of the alley, it's a very usable alley in Hyde Park. Obviously, they have solid waste pickup. So this alley is already one that is used, and they're going to piggyback on that. So this is the alley in both directions, and the surface and the treatment that's there now. That concludes the photo presentation. At this time, I'll have the agent address the board, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jim Lloyd with Lloyd Craftsman, representing the homeowners at 909 South Dakota Avenue, bringing forward a new construction accessory building for your review this evening. We'll start out with the site plan. So kind of the whole driver for this is now going to be a rear access garage. From the alley due to, as Ron mentioned, the 7.5 foot spacing from the building to the fence just isn't enough to get any sort of vehicle from today down that area or down that alley. However, we are going to keep the vehicular access from Dakota along with the ribbons, and at staff's recommendation, we came back 18 feet on the side of the house to be able to allow for, if there's a vehicle that they can get down there, they can put that back there and have a gate or a fence connecting from the house to the existing fence that's there. Currently, we've got 19 feet from building spacing. There's the garage door face is 17 feet, which is a little further than what transportation required, just to be able to have a little bit of extra space back there to pull in and park vehicles and turn around so that they're not having to park out on the street. Typical scoring pattern, 5 foot on center that Hyde Park has. The front elevation of the building was kept clear. We'll look at some elevations in a second, but we're placing the stair access for the second floor on the north side of the building. This structure also is going to have first and second floor open porch as well, in addition to the living space. Turning to the elevations. This is going to be the east elevation, so this is looking at it from the alley. So you see the back of the stairs. Clopay Coachman garage door, the porch detail that matches some of the details that are on the existing structure currently. The This is gonna be the south elevation with the 2 porches. There's some detailing on here with some ventilations and fake vents that we put in to kind of make it look like a more historic building. This will be the front elevation, the west elevation. This is not going to be an actual garage door. This will just be this will be made out of trim to mimic the garage door that's on the house, just to show that historically there would have been vehicles that would have been traveling up the side of the house to be able to pull into that garage. We're also doing just a man door so that they can get access to get across from the garage into the main house. Again, the stairs, some details on the porch trim, which will be 6x6 posts wrapped with hardy. Same porch detail, 2x4 porch detail, that's wood. There'll be some cap and base details that we're gonna do to match some of the stuff that's on the main structure. This is gonna be the north elevation with the stairs going up. The mini split AC unit will be mounted underneath of the stairway with some screening so that it's not accessible and seen from any other elevations. Looking at some of the construction details, this is the Clopay Coachman door. This is another one that we had done. It's a little bit smaller door, but it's that similar style. It'll be a 16-foot by 8-foot tall door. And then we've got, this is just some closer up details, kind of what Ron showed you on the existing home with the front porch railing, 2x4 railing and handrails, 2x6 handrails. That shows some of the existing details of the house that will be matching in hardy on the accessory structure. So the same width of corner boards and window trim details, with the overhanging header detail and the siding. We're doing Windsor clad wood windows. They are wood windows, but they are aluminum clad just to protect from the elements. And then this has, so this is an existing one that we're actually working on right now. This is a kind of a example of what the front door would be. That's a DFR 3C Plaspro door, along with a little bit of a detail on the overhang that we would be doing over that man door as it exits from the garage going to the house. This is that 2x4 railing detail that we've been successful with in the neighborhood. Done it on a bunch of homes down there. Looks very similar to what they built back in the 20s. 2x4 bottom rail, 2x4 pickets, 2x4 top rail with a top cap 2x6. Another look at that door with the overhang. We don't have hardware details yet. It's something that the client's going to potentially, select, and then we'll work with staff on that. But just some, prior details of some things that we've done before with house numbers. And then last would be the section drawing here. So just kind of starting from the top. The home's got an enclosed soffit. It's not open rafter tails, so this will be an enclosed soffit detail with beadboard on the bottom. Like I said, similar trim details to what's on the main house. The Windsor clad wood window. Some siding details, and then like I said, there's I think some of the trim details for the porch I've discussed on the elevation. I think that's it, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think I hit everything that we need to chat about, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, staff.
Good evening, Commissioner. Ron Velam, staff for Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Ybor City Design Guidelines. Staff had some conditions moving forward. The majority of the items have been addressed. I just wanted to touch on a couple of items here. The overhangs was a concern of ours. the primary house has them closed in with the beaded soffit, and he had illustrated that that's the direction he's gonna go. There's a new accessory structure coming in. There is no fence off the rear. I don't know if a fence is gonna be part of this request or not. He did not show none, but that could be open for discussion this evening. The ribbon drives off the primary street was a concern. We had discussion back and forth. I believe that there's a pattern on that block to keep the apron and the ribbon drive there. He does have that truncated area there, 7.5 foot plus. I believe he could still get a vehicle down there. Either this owner or another owner may choose to use that. And that is the reason for the garage door all the way at the end. If they build it with a header, maybe this owner wants to change his direction later on, or an owner or a future owner may wish to have a drive in off of Dakota and then a drive out of the alley. That seems to be the rhythm of the area. It's difficult to stack your cars tandemly and then back them up constantly into the street. So that exit off the alley gives you that option to move forward as well. He did show the wall section. I don't believe he called out the roofing material. And then he mentioned that the lighting and hardware will be coming at a later date. So that could be delegated to staff if this is the final approval. So I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the public here to present for or against this case? Okay, seeing nobody, we will go on to questions from the commissioners. I'll start on my right. Commissioner Prokop.
Hi. Yeah, could you come up to the podium, please? Could you bring up your site plan again?
Yes, sir.
Do you have a dimension or setbacks on the sides of your property? And what is the setback to the new stair on the
To
accessory
the
structure?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know why that's not on there. It was on one of the other versions. It's 6 feet. We went 6 feet from the north side property line to the structure, which will leave us 3 feet from the property line to the stairs, and then a 3-foot stair.
Is that to the right of the end plan or to the left? Yeah, I mean, I know you're gonna have to get this passed through,
Yeah, so.
zoning, but,
This is 3 feet, it's 6 feet.
but they're not parallel to each other. The property line and the house aren't or the structure aren't parallel to each other. So you'll wanna be careful with where you draw that line from.
Yeah, the structure will absolutely be parallel to the property line, for sure.
Okay, well, again, I'm looking at the structure here, the property line and the structure. The property line doesn't look square. Doesn't look like there's a 90-degree angle at the upper left-hand side, or am I just being deceived by the, yeah.
That?
It just doesn't look like that northern property line is horizontal. So I'm just letting you know that it'll be square to the house, I understand, the accessory structure, but that whether you measure it off the property line from the right-hand corner, oh, I see what you're saying here.
Yeah, it's off like a degree.
Yeah,
So-
okay, it's off a bit, okay. I just wasn't sure. Okay, so that will need to be clarified. Could you bring up your exterior elevations, please?
Mhm.
The next ones. Yeah, that elevation, the west elevation. Just, is there I'll ask a question. Is there a reason that the ground floor openings and the second floor openings are not centered vertically on each other?
I don't believe so. I think that my draftsperson probably went, yeah, I don't think so. So is that something that if we move forward, would centering the garage door, the man door underneath of the windows above be appropriate?
I think that's more appropriate for the district, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. what is the screening material on the, and same with the garage door and the other pair on the other side? They're just like a foot off of center, so they're just kind of weird that they're not aligning with each other. Yeah, what's the screening material on the AC unit below the stairs? What is that made out of?
It's a
And,
lattice material. It's something that we've used with staff before for like under-house screening and things like that.
Okay. What's the exposure? I can't read any of these notes because they're just so small, but, or I wouldn't ask. What's the exposure of the siding on the addition versus the siding on the main house?
It would be we'd match it on the main house, so it's 2.5 inches on the main house. So it'd be 2.5 inches on the guest house as well.
Okay, again, traditionally, it's just a commentary that you do not match a main house
Okay.
with the accessory structure. You make it different so that people can tell that it's not original to the
We
to
wouldn't
the
have
house.
a problem with that.
We prefer that it not match
Okay.
precisely.
I've brought a few forward before that we have, and then some of them that we haven't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that being a condition if that was something that y'all wanted to do.
Okay. What's the depth, again, under the same kind of conditions that the accessory structure is subservient and not an exact duplicate of the main house?
Yes, sir.
What are the overhangs of the roofs on both the accessory structure and the main house?
It's 18 inches on the accessory, and it's 30 inches on the main house.
Okay, thank you. Is there any intent to put a fence on the property?
Not at this time. I think down the road, you know, it's certainly possible, but at this point, we're not going to, because there may be some other items of, you know, that are going to go in the yard, so I'm not sure if they're going to do that or not right now, but it's certainly something, we've gone over fences with staff before, so if it is something that we're
Okay.
going to do, we can bring that forward at that point.
Excuse me, and one more question.
What's on the property right now is just like a standard board-on-board fence that's not anything.
But there's nothing along the back alley?
Correct, there's nothing on the back, that's
Right,
right, yeah.
okay. And one more other question on you, can you bring up the wall section, please? And can you somehow zoom into what, you know, this looks like it's, I don't know what, okay, yeah, zoom into the window, please. Drop it down a bit. Okay. Can't really tell what is going on. Is that window recessed and a certain distance back from the face of the wall? I don't see.
It's just the location of where, actually, you can probably see it better. I mean, it's the same window as this, so when you're looking at a window in section, you know, the sash ends up in the middle, not, you know, front or back. So it's the same, it's the same window as this. It's a Windsor window. They're 4 9/16 jambs or 6 9/16 jambs, depending on the thickness of the wall.
And which are yours?
Sir?
And which are yours?
The walls are 6 9/16, but the windows are set to the outside. They're fin windows that get set to the outside
They
of
are.
the structure. Yes, sir.
Is there any way to modify that so that they're not set to the outside face of the window?
Well, the frame of the frame of the window sticks out about 2 inches, as you can see in this. So the window itself, this front sash, this upper sash, is probably recessed back within the opening about 1.5 inches.
Okay, I guess we can leave that to staff to figure out, but I prefer when we do wall sections with details, it helps to see real details of
So
the
the actual
windows
window.
in the, you know, as it's sitting in the window, so we can read that depth.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Hammond?
I do have a couple of questions. The first one, I'm not sure if it's for the applicant or for staff, for Ron, but the detailing of the bracket at the man door on the lower level. You showed a photo of one that actually had a beam, you know, and nicely detailed.
Yes, sir.
And this one doesn't. you know, it doesn't show a beam going across it. There's not, you know, it's not dimensioned, at least from what I can see. I'm looking at the elevations, at your south elevation, or either one of those, yeah. So I'm just wondering, you know, again, maybe this is for staff, for Ron, about, you know, how do you control that? How do you get into those kinds of details?
Per the discussion this evening, he had submitted different information into the record, so you could lead him towards, you want it to be more like the picture that was illustrated, and then the drawings will have to reflect that bracket detail.
Okay.
And just for clarification, right now, we're just asking questions of him, and then we can
Right.
talk about what we prefer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
this was essentially the same detail that we had submitted to approval on the previous accessory structure. And it's got, you know, the beam is not raised up in here, but you can see kind of this is our interpretation of what the drawing is in reality.
Okay, another question on the elevations, on the east elevation at the garage doors. It appears as if the trim along the header is thinner than the trim on the side. Was that intentional?
No. No, it'd have the same window, it'd have the same detail on it that the window, or that the windows have.
Yeah, I'm
Can
looking at.
you adjust your drawing so we can see the garage door?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a consistent detail. So this header detail is consistent on everything, over all the doors and windows that are on the plan. I think it's just I think Clopay just has a stick-on CAD detail that they put on there, and they just missed the header detail on it, but it will match what the windows are.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Ketchum?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Myers?
One quick question. What is the ceiling in the porch?
Beadboard.
Okay.
It would beadboard to match, yes, sir.
All right, thanks.
Okay. A couple of questions. If you'll put the site plan back up, please. So move it to the right a little bit. So the dimension from the northeast corner of the house to the property line, is that, can you zoom in? Is that the same 7/8? Well, the one to the east. Yeah, what is that dimension to the property line? I think if you zoom in, yeah.
I have to take my glasses off to actually see it. It's a little hard. It's 7'6".
Okay, a little bit tighter than the back.
Yeah.
And then that fence that's showing up on the neighbor's property, remind me, what is that material? Do you
That's
know?
a wood, it's a wood, like board on board, just a standard
board.
board on board
Okay.
fence, yeah.
So does the applicant currently make that passage? Okay,
No, sir.
okay. Remind me, did you tell us the material for the roof?
Shingles.
Shingles.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is that with the primary house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then elevation-wise, I'm assuming where this is located, it's not in the flood zone?
Correct.
I saw your wall section. It looked like you had a 6-inch change between grade to finished
Yes, sir.
floor?
Correct.
And you got plenty of room on the back to make that up for the alley?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so big question. Why put the stairs where it's visible from the main street?
Well, we had it on the front elevation, and that was an issue, obviously, with the nature of the neighborhood, but we decided that the best location would be on the side elevation, just based on the layout, what the floor plan is, and the location of what they're doing with the garage and porches and whatnot.
Okay, so another question related to the stairs. Would it negatively affect the floor plan if you put it on the south side of the building?
The south side's got the porch on it right now.
So I'm assuming there's no way you could incorporate it into the plan?
Correct.
So I guess my question is, there's no way the applicant would be open to that?
Probably not at this time. I mean, it's actually a similar accessory structure to the house that's to the north, and they had the same layout And they had stairs on the side and as well,
Okay.
so.
All right, no further questions from myself. Thank you very much. All right, with that being said, we're going to close the public hearing. And commissioners, we can start with discussion.
I think that we're almost ready here. I'll defer the rest of my time to my fellow commissioners.
Yeah, I had the same concerns you did, is why isn't the garage door more in line with the ribbons from the street? So that's what you traditionally see at the end of a ribbon driveway, is the garage doors and not a man stair that goes to the second floor. It's obviously, it's not, this building wasn't designed for this site. It was copied from the next door neighbor and brought over and put on this site and said, this is how we're gonna do it. And we're not, it's not ideal. I don't like it. But as it's not really a functional garage, it would basically only be, I mean, my Miata wouldn't even fit down that alley next to the house in 7 feet 6, I don't think. I'd have to fold the mirrors in, right? That's right, you don't drive the Miata.
And you know what, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. Ms. Crosby, I don't believe I asked if he wanted any rebuttal time.
No, that's, we haven't had any public comment, yes, sir, that's correct. You would allow 5 minutes for rebuttal, and then close the public hearing. So just reopen the public hearing and
So
ask for.
I'm going to reopen the public hearing. Would the applicant or the agent like to take 5 minutes for any rebuttal before we begin our discussion or continue our discussion?
I don't believe so. I don't believe I have any rebuttal right now, so, no. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you. All right,
Yep.
so we'll close it and continue on with the discussion, so I interrupted.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, I think there's not gonna be much of a garage use from the street, from the street front back, except for golf carts, which are becoming much more popular. You know, you could use golf carts and get into the garage all the time, but, it's not a deal breaker. I just wanted to agree with you that it's like, doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have the stairs as the focal point down the driveway. That's all I have to say.
So, are you saying it would be preferable to not have stairs at all? I'm gonna ask this question of anybody. I mean, is this as close to the property line as the accessory structure can be?
3 feet.
3 feet.
Yeah, that's why I asked him the question earlier about what the setback was from the property line and what
3 feet
to
on
the
the
stair.
north.
Yeah,
Hmm?
okay,
3 feet to the north.
Right,
right,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, so if you took the stair off and you incorporated the stair into a different design of porch on the other side of the house, you know, you could conceivably move the building over to 3 feet away from the property line and sort of have the garage door line up with the ribbon to a better extent. And you could redesign that porch on the other side. You can design porches and patios and second floor decks with all kinds of stairs attached to them, you know? But it's just a question brought up, you know, and
Yeah,
is it a make or break issue? No.
yeah. I think it's so far back there. I mean, it's.
Right.
Who would see it anyway, you know?
Everybody who walks down the sidewalk.
Oh, not, you'd have to really be looking for that, so.
It's one of the things I know that when we walk, when we look at all these neighborhoods and you look down through somebody's porte cochere, I always am looking at what's at the end of that driveway through the porte cochere. What's the focal point at the end of the passage? Now, great, this is much narrower than most. You know, you have one, right, off to the side. You have a side yard and whatnot. And it is very narrow, but it's kind of, when I mean, maybe I'm just me, maybe I'm just, you know, a weird architect. But I drive down, sidewalks or walk down sidewalks, I don't drive down them. And look down people's driveways and see how the yard is developed in the back and what's the focal point of that passageway. So it's just one thing I do.
Fair enough. Ron? Staff position, you have said this is consistent with guidelines. My memory is that preference has always been for outside stairs to be inboard and not visible from the primary street. Has something changed?
So in working with this project, initially, they didn't have the deck coming off of the interior side of the parcel. So in modifying what the owner's wishes were, you have to look at the front elevation. They're gonna have a gate coming across the ribbon drive, so that's gonna hinder some of the view too. The stairs were on that elevation. Staff felt that was very inappropriate because usually you have your vehicular access there, so how can you have a stair interjecting with the vehicular access? So then we looked at the other elevations. The other, where the decking is the interior. They're probably gonna put a pool there, outdoor kitchen, something there, so that visibility probably wouldn't receive, the exterior stairs. And on the back, they have a double wide vehicular access. So you have to look at the lesser of the evils as it comes forward. I believe that the stairs should not be on the primary elevation where the ribbons die into. On the side that abuts a common property line, you'll see it historically over there. So we kind of dissected it. Where does it need to end up? That's why we believe, and we stated that it was consistent with our criteria where it ended up.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioners, any other comments?
I feel that we should make a condition that that they should vary the exposure of the siding, and then coordinate the hardware and lighting with the staff.
I agree with those conditions.
There was also some inconsistencies on the detailing that Commissioner Hammond pointed out.
Yeah, the trim above the garage
And the man door.
and the man door, I want to make sure that that the detailing of the bracket is is in keeping with the photograph that was presented.
Okay. I don't sense there's any more discussion. Is there a motion to be had?
You're gonna go?
I'll go.
There we go.
All right. I move that we accept, where is it? Hold on. Got to get the right motion. All righty. I move that we grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 24-00000186 for the property at, where'd it go? 909 South Dakota Avenue. Because, with the following conditions, that the applicant present and get approved by staff the hardware and lighting, that the trim be consistent throughout between windows and doors, that the exposure of the siding on the accessory structure vary from the exposure on the main house, and that the detail of the bracket over man doors be more consistent with the photograph submitted rather than the drawings. Because based upon the finding of fact, the project is consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines in the city of Tampa for the following reasons: that it is appropriate in scale, massing, and complies with the Chapter 27 of the City of Tampa ordinances.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Ask him if he agrees with the conditions.
Applicant? So you've heard the conditions?
Yep,
Are you in agreement with the conditions?
100%, yes, sir.
Good,
Not a problem.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Ms. Crosby, do we need to vote again, or are we good?
Yes, go ahead and vote again.
Okay, so we have full motion. The applicant has agreed to the conditions, so all in favor signify with an eye.
Aye.
A motion passes. Congratulations.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. Our next agenda item is ARC-24-0000-235. This is for the address of 4908 North Suwannee Avenue. This is the Seminole Heights Historic District. Currently, it's an empty parcel. The zoning is SHRS, which is Seminole Heights Residential, single family. The square footage of the request this evening is just under 2,000 square foot. That's under roof, not living. There's a porch. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a single-family residence with some site improvements. The project site is an empty parcel, as I stated. It measures 51 in the front by 132 deep, and there is an alley that runs behind the property. This is the Sanborn map. Looking at the southwest corner of our local district, this red line is the local district of Seminole Heights. In 1929, it was an empty parcel, and currently today it's an empty parcel. Just to the east, you see some of Hillsborough High School here, and Hillsborough High School was there in the early 20s as well, or excuse me, the late 20s. This is our vicinity map. The red indicates the local district of Seminole Heights. The property in question is down here. As I stated, just as a reference point, you have Osborne to the south, you have Florida Avenue to the west, and then you have Hillsborough High School here. Showing the current aerial. Property in question is here. Once again, Florida Avenue in Osborne. The stadium here. You have some parking, and then just to the west of the parking is the depressed retention area, and then the property in question across the street. This is the site in question. There is currently an apron there that will be modified as part of this request, and then they have a parkway. They have the street, the parkway, the sidewalk, and then the private property. This is looking to the south. There's another vacant parcel. You see the construction fence around it. This board has reviewed a project and approved it, and they're moving some dirt now. So there'll be the subject site, they'll have an empty parcel, and then new development. So this street, the 4900 block of Suwannee is moving forward. This is abutting to the north. And as you look down the street, there's a series of single-family craftsman homes down the street. This is Suwannee looking to the north. This is the parkway that I spoke about. If there's any modification to the apron, they should reinstall the parkway and then the sidewalk. That is looking to the north. This is down Suwannee to the south. Directly across the street is a depressed area for water retention, and then as you continue to the east is parking. There is an alley that runs north and south behind the subject site, and this is looking to the north and then to the south. As part of this project, there is no vehicular access off the alley. I just wanted to bring your attention. This site has so much upside possibility. They're coming forward with a single-family house, no accessory structure, nothing else, but I believe in the near future that somebody will activate the lot in a more intensive way. That concludes the photo presentation, and the agent will address the board.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Torre at the Angels for the owner and Suwannee. She's my daughter. She's doing the presentation.
Hi, I'm Yaelin Torres.
I'm Doug McCarthy. I'm the architectural and structural designer on the project.
So 4908 North Suwannee Avenue is located in the Seminole Heights Historic District. The project description, it's going to be a new construction, single-family residential with site improvements. The property location, it is on the west side of Suwannee Avenue between Osborne Avenue and Violet Street. It is zoning SHRS. The square footage of the new proposed construction is 1,920 square feet. The architectural style is bungalow. This is the site plan. Right now, it's a vacant lot that measures 51 wide and 132 deep. An alley runs behind the lot. And
Let me go.
yeah.
We've set the house back at 23 feet to the front porch. The house to the north is 26 feet. The house to the south is vacant, so that was our block average. We have the house with the ribbon driveway to the south. And at the porch, where the porch stops, we have a parking pad of 9 feet by 36 feet. And then it's a straight run driveway with a apron on the north side, and it's got some scoring as well in the driveway, which I'll show you is indicative of the neighborhood. Also providing a sidewalk from the house to the existing sidewalk that runs north-south, and a sidewalk that'll run to the apron driveway. We have the AC in the rear. If it's required, we can put a fence around it or some shrubbery. I'm trying to think of it. I think that's it. Yeah.
So here we have a picture of a house that's located at 4914 Suwannee, and as you can see, this is the driveway example, so this is what we're aiming for. The setbacks, you can say that.
Oh, yeah, the setback is 23 feet, like we mentioned. We could probably just go into the front elevation if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make this, yeah, there we go.
The front elevation, I'll start at the top. We're proposing asphalt shingles with a 4 and 12 slope, which is indicative of the neighborhood. On the gable end, we're going to do hardy board shake siding with a gable vent in the center, and then we're going to do 3 triangular brackets or braces that we'll have a detail of at the end or further in another slide. 2x8 barge rafter. All the trim around the doors and windows are 1x5 with a 2x3 sill underneath the windows. We have tapered columns with a detail to show later. It's wood with the 1x4 corner boards, and then in the lower, from the porch up, is 36 inches. We're going to wrap that with a brick veneer. We'll have 3 steps up to the porch, so it'd be 3 7-inch risers up to a 24-inch high porch above grade. Finished floor elevation will be 25 inches above grade. Overhang on the front and as well as the sides is 2 feet. I think that is it on the front elevation.
And then here we have 2 more examples of 2 homes that are located. This one is 4913 North Suwannee and 4920 North Suwannee. You can see it's the same design. I don't know why it looks so dark on there. On my computer it looks better. But
All right. South elevation, I didn't mention this either in the front. We have going to have 5.5 inch smooth hardy board siding with a 4-inch reveal. Exposed 2x6 rafters with a beadboard soffit. Down the side, we're going to do stucco and then do a brick veneer kind of faux pier design with a 10-inch band above that to break up the siding from the stucco. The 2-foot overhang, I think that's, and then our windows are indicative, of that period or I guess house as well on the sizes. You got north elevation, you have very similar, we have three 36 by 60 inch windows, small window in the restroom. We're doing the same detail on the side with the stucco and then the brick veneer piers. Rear elevation, again, we'll have a 2x8 barge rafter, the same shake gable, or a gable in frame siding along with the gable vents. We're going to have do a roof cover on the rear doors with a corbel design, which we'll show later. And those doors as well are wrapped with a 1x5 trim along with the corners. We've got a raised porch there as well, and again doing the stucco with the brick veneer piers.
This is just the foundation plan. This is just a foundation plan. And then wall section.
You want to say a little bit of detail? Okay, the wall sections. Right.
Let me put it.
So the typical wall section, so we'll have the asphalt shingles, 2-foot overhang with the exposed rafter tails that are 2x6 with the beadboard on the underside as well. Above the window, we're going to have the 1x5 wrapping 3 sides of the window. We're going to do a 1x1 wood trim above the window. Gilded or weather shield wood-clad windows that'll be set back in the face a few inches. On the sill, we're going to have a knocked-off sill, concrete sill, so we can incorporate the 2x3 wood window sill on the bottom. And then, of course, we have the hardy plank siding, which is a smooth with a 4-inch exposure. I believe that's it on that.
No, here we have the column details.
The column detail, we're going to do a taper column. It'll be a 4-inch thick wood cap, 14 inches square. I'm sorry, it's 16 inches square. The taper will come in an inch on each side. It'll be 1'2", taper down to a concrete 4-inch thick concrete base. That'll be 28 inches square. Has a 2-inch overhang, as well as the porch. The bottom 3 from that cap down to grade will be a brick veneer that surrounds the entire column. We'll have I didn't call it on it. 1x4 trim on the corners, all corners of each of the columns, and again with a 2-foot overhang as well. Oh, do you have the porch detail? All right. These are the corbel detail. This is for the rear doors for that little gable entrance. You use 4x4 material and then a radiused section there, and then tying back just to give it that period look. Detail of the stairs here with the 3 7-inch risers, 12-inch treads. So we're at 20 inches high from grade to top of porch, and a 2-inch overhang on that porch landing over the face of the front of the house. The porch section, we're going to have a 2-foot overhang, beadboard on the ceiling where the rafters are exposed, beadboard ceiling along the porch. I don't think everything's with the same window detail with the 1x5 surrounding with the 1x1 wood trim above the window, then a 2x3 wood window sill below, wood-clad windows, and then you have a 4-inch step down, so you can see the living floor is going to be 4 inches higher than the 21-inch high porch. The corbel detail.
The measurements for the.
Yeah. I know on one of our elevations, it's the the south elevation, we've only got 2 windows on that elevation. And then, because we've got a kitchen on that side as well, so we've got more windows on the opposite side, but. So would you want to supply that, yeah,
Sorry.
the floor plan, so you can see the reason for the window placement on the house itself?
Yeah, so once again, the foundation and enclosure material. Just a closer look.
Do you have the coral detail? I can put that underneath there.
Didn't we already do that one?
No,
No.
well, we did the rear,
Oh, okay.
like I said that. This is the corbel detail that we're gonna do in the front of the house. We'll have 3, 1 at the peak, and then 2, or 1 over each front column, all out of 4x4 material. So it'll be for the arts and crafts look. So that's on the front. The other one was for the rear porch roof.
So the roof, this is a sample of the roof material. We're gonna use the color weathered wood, and it's gonna be shingle. This is a sample of the exterior wall material. The hardy board is gonna be a smooth finish. This is another example.
The shake, see the shake, yeah. It's on the gable, yeah.
Yeah, with that on the top part of the house. The windows that we're going to be using are clad wood windows. The front door. In the rear, we are going to be using French door. This is the hardware and lighting that's going to be used in the front of the house. And this is the veneer brick that we're going to use. We're not going to, this is just an example, but we're going to leave, you know, the original color.
Yeah, it won't be painted.
And these are the colors we're planning for the exterior paint. And that's it.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see anybody else. Oh, staff, go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila. The request is for a certificate of appropriateness for a single-family residential with site improvements. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Seminole Heights Design Guidelines. It's a refreshing application because it matches the vernacular of that block. It's a simple one-story home. They have examples, I believe they have additional examples. When we talked in the office, they showed some more houses along that block, which leads me to the setback and elevation from grade. So they provided some dimensions for the setback. Elevation from grade, they talked about 3 risers. We'll put them at 21, this area. Usually the Craftsman style homes are about 30 inches. This is consistent with the criteria, and I believe they have that information to show you. Staff had a concern with the penetrations and the solids and voids, particularly with that south elevation. They showed the floor plan with the cabinets and everything else, so that's up for y'all to decide and have that discussion if an additional window could somehow be fit in that south elevation. They did show some examples of the knee brackets over the overhang in the rear door, over the French doors. There's a little different detail than the front knee brackets, but staff believes that there should be knee brackets on the rear elevation to match the ones on the front elevation as well. The alleys are something that are becoming more and more activated for pedestrian traffic, and that elevation should just not be discarded. That elevation should be part of the overall concept as well. I'll be here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Ron. Doesn't look like we have anybody in the audience, so no public input. We will move forward with questions from the commissioners, starting on my left.
I have just a couple questions. Would you be willing to put welcome walls on the front if the other commissioners decided?
I don't think we're opposed to that. That's like a knee wall on the front porch. As you're talking about, right? You're not gonna
Yeah.
knee wall, yeah.
Just
I don't
coming
think-
out
I don't-
along
I'm
the
not-
stairs?
We're not opposed to it, yeah. So,
Okay. And I'll just mention that if there were a pair of windows in the dining room, would that cause anybody any heartburn?
let me see. Refresh my memory on the plan. That's my floor plan. You have it there? Okay, yeah. No, yeah, no objection to that either.
Okay. Thank you very much. Otherwise, it was a very complete presentation. Thanks.
What, is there an issue with putting an additional window on the south side? Can you just explain more fully?
Yeah, the way the house is laid out, we've got a family room in the front, and then
And the
dining room,
kitchen in the
and the
back.
kitchen's in the rear,
Can you
sorry.
put the floor
Oh,
plan
I'm
up?
sorry, yeah.
And you have the range essentially on that wall?
On that exterior wall, correct. So we have the sink facing into the living space.
I don't think we could.
Yeah.
And if you were gonna put an extra window in the dining room,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
There's
Yeah.
a window
The double window there, yeah.
Okay. And then I guess the corbels over the doorways?
The rear door, yeah.
Yeah, you're okay with making them the same?
Yes,
One
yes,
way or the
yeah.
other?
Yeah, no problem with that.
Okay, and the setback, why is it 23 as opposed to 26? To
Uh,
match the other home?
Because when you have a vacant lot to the south, you use 20 feet, which I think is the standard, and then it's the average
Between
between the
them?
two, yeah. But we can, if you want it set
Further
further back,
back.
yeah.
Okay.
That's how we came up with the 23.
There is a tree, in the back.
We do have a rear, yeah, that's just, yeah. There is a 20-inch oak in the back. I don't know if that's,
Could you put that exhibit on there, please?
I don't know if that's our tree or if it's the neighbor's tree. It's pretty close to the property line.
This tree right here. Let me zoom that in.
I think it's might be right on the property line. So I don't know whose tree it is, if it's ours to be able to take out or not. If we push the house back any further.
Okay. No further questions?
Commissioner Hammond?
Could you put up again the photo of the two houses that are on the street?
Yes.
That were a little dark. I just wanted to get a little better look at those.
Let me, sorry.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. All right. Yeah, those are hard
I wonder.
Yeah.
to read, but
So
Yeah, makes it-
this is, sorry, I don't know if I turn.
Maybe
off
on the
this light.
laptop itself, you could brighten.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
as
it's as bright as it goes.
Yeah, I think can I turn off this light and then maybe it will,
that's okay.
okay.
Yeah, this should be.
Oh, maybe if I do.
What'd you do?
It's better. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Prokop?
Do you have the setbacks for any other house on the block? Or
No,
is there no other house on the block?
We did not. I set it up, similar heights as the house on either side by the standards. That's where we came up from that. It's not, they don't require a block average. So that's why we came up with this, the one on either side.
Okay, and what is the difference in depth between the foundation finishes, the difference in the depth between the stucco and the faces of the fake brick?
The fake brick is applied to the face of the house. You're gonna have the thickness of the brick. is the difference.
So there's no difference, basically, because the stucco also has a thickness already.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're gonna be
VSC
flush with
stucco.
each other.
Just about, yeah.
Would you be opposed to there trying to be some sort of depth change? Because, I mean, that's almost, does that come across as kind of fake to you?
Yeah, yeah. There's no,
I think it is though going to come out a little.
well, just a little bit, but there's no easy, I don't know how we're gonna achieve that. You know,
That's not my job.
I mean, I did that house years ago in the district, and we just had, what else, about a year or two ago, we just had.
I
stucco
know,
on the bottom.
we don't compare current applications with past applications necessarily. We're just trying to figure out how to, make something the best it can possibly be.
That'd be a question for the contractor. So they want to know if, ellos quieren que el brick se salga para afuera. So que el brick se salga para afuera para que no se vea falso. ¿Se va a salir para afuera el brick o
Yeah,
va a quedar-
half inch, I think.
It's gonna come out about a half inch.
A little bit, okay. All right. I don't have any other questions.
Okay, can you put the rear elevation back up, please? Okay, so that window is going into what room?
That's over the toilet in the master bath.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Gutters are only on the sides of the house, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Got that. Okay. And then you showed your light fixtures, you showed a hanging fixture. Where is that going?
In the porch, the front porch.
Okay, so do you have no light fixture on the south elevation?
Oh,
So I think the other ones are like somewhere back here.
which elevation? Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna wanna look at the front elevation, but
Yeah.
do you have any lights on this side?
They're recess lights. And then.
We'll have lights on the other side of the door mounted.
Okay,
you know,
so
like
you're not,
sconces.
they're not shown on this?
They're not shown on my drawing, no.
Okay, so like carriage lamps on either side of the ones that you presented?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so now can you show me the front elevation?
yes.
Okay, can you tell me where, because I don't see any lights here either, so.
Well, yeah, we'll have, a wall sconce here and here, and then possibly maybe a hanging fixture as well from the porch.
So
But-
that's not determined yet?
I'm sorry?
So that's really hasn't been determined yet?
Oh, no, that hasn't been determined.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so staying on this elevation, you're showing 3 brackets, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I thought when you gave your presentation, you said you were gonna have a bracket above every column, but just to be
Yeah,
clear.
misspoke, yeah.
Okay, and we don't have any of these brackets on the rear of the house?
Not this, I had 2 different styles, but I'm not opposed to using the same style, front and rear.
Okay, just for my clarification, can you go back to the rear of the elevation, so I can see that?
Is underneath.
Okay, so I'm referring to the brackets on the roof line.
Ah, okay.
So
On
are
the
you-
gable end, okay. Yeah, we can put them there as well,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know if the alley's, is the alley open? It is open, okay, so,
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Any other questions, commissioners?
I have a simple question. Are the steps in this back, and maybe one of the architects on the panel can help me, are the steps gonna span both of the doors?
oh, the width of the patio? The way I have it drawn now, no, they're just like 3 feet wide.
they actually on their site plan show a patio that comes out, and then these steps come off, so it's not coming directly off
Off
of
the
the door.
doorway?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Is that correct?
yes, there's a patio back there, a raised patio.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay. So the applicant, we're finished up with our questions. You have 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
Not giving a rebuttal? No rebuttal.
Okay. All right. Not using the rebuttal, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and we will begin with discussion. Always you.
Just a, little bone of contention. I would rather not see the fake brick pilasters and just have a smooth finish of some kind, but that, I just have the flatness and the Disneyfication of the architecture and trying to imitate a fake thing that doesn't exist because there is no pier, but we're trying to make it look like a pier. I'd almost rather have those not there.
Where in particular?
The
John?
exterior elevations.
Yeah, but all the way down the sides, is that what you're talking about? Or you would have it in the front at the columns, obviously, right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's not,
But then
that's not a fake, that's a real pier.
But is it protruding? That's something that I don't know. Are those piers actually protruding?
From the face of the porch. Look at you with the plans on your
Yeah.
iPad.
So I can see.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can say those are protruding.
Yeah,
And to your point, I agree with you, John.
yes.
Yeah,
On the side of the house.
on the side of the house. And the rear, I don't think the fake ones do anything to add anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I heard comments about the welcome walls.
Yeah. Anybody in favor of a condition that says we add welcome walls? Or,
My main issue with this design is the columns in the front and just really making sure, I'm not discounting that, but making sure that the columns themselves are detailed really well. And it's not really showing up in these drawings that it's been really, really thought out because this building is so simple. These columns are really what's it.
It's it, yeah.
This is it.
That's the house.
Yeah, or these columns, and they really need to be thought out. Like, for instance, I mean, I looked at the drawings, and it's really not consistent from the section on through the porch and a column detail. They're not consistent, and if I don't know if we can pull up a drawing, but
No. We'd have to
but
look it up.
maybe that's a little bit further in the discussion. But I would like to see the trim work worked out a little bit better.
And
I'm not opposed to the form, but I think that for this to move forward and be successful, these columns need more thought to them. And as they're drawn in the elevations, isn't quite the same as in the sections. They've been simplified, and I had taken a detail and just overlaid it on the elevation, and it's slightly different. And I think that we need to be very thoughtful about how that's executed. I also, so that's number one. I also think that, I guess this is a question, but for everybody else to weigh in on, but
We're talking amongst friends right here.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing, okay?
the trim below the windows looks a little thin. I wonder if there should be a board across, like an apron across the bottom of that. And I'm the new person here, so you know, you guys have had more experience with this. That to me would enhance this house again because it's so simple. I do have questions about the lighting. I think on the front porch you could get a sconce on either side, but I'm not sure about anything hanging there. I don't think there's the height in there to get anything to hang. I would rather see, if you want light, more light, some recessed cans up underneath. And I also think that on the rear of the structure, I don't know, as it's shown right now, if there's room to get, the applicant said wall sconces, but I don't think that there's room to get that on either side of the brackets. So maybe that's where a recessed can needs to go, or those brackets need to get a little wider. I wouldn't want to see the sconces just kind of crowded in there. But again, you know, I think, you know, back to my original point, I think these columns really need to be well thought out and well detailed, and I don't think there's consistency in the drawings from the front elevation to the section through the porch to the detail of the column.
Okay. Your comments?
They can look weird if not done well. They could
Yes.
start to get to be almost like pointy pyramids
Yeah.
rather than gently tapered
Right.
square
Yeah.
pilasters.
And I think that the on their sheet number 5, the column detail, where it had all the dimensions on the column, if those are correct, it looks okay. But in the elevations, they're getting too pointy.
Well, we can make that a condition of an approval, is that the column proportions match the detail proportions, and that be coordinated with staff. That's
Well,
part of one of the conditions we
yeah.
can make.
Yeah.
Well, in all your comments, you made a reference to you being a newbie. The only comment I would have is your reference to sheet number 5 is constructive, because if you just say we need to work on those columns and leave it to staff, we haven't really given any direction. So
Right.
that sheet number 5 comment is.
Very good comment.
Is
Yeah.
constructive.
Well, I mean, but besides, I think there needs to be an extra piece of trim on the column detail on sheet number 5 at the top and bottom. I also, you know, there's inconsistency between the cap that's shown on the section through the porch and its relationship to the beam,
Yes.
and because it's going through it, and then if you look at the column detail on sheet number 5, it's how I think it should be. That it's sitting on top of that top trim, on top of the column.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a number of different structural aspects of these drawings that is not how it's going to be built, because they're not detailed as
Completely.
things get built. They're not detailed completely, exactly. But, you know, we can state that the proportions of the column be as depicted in the section on sheet 5 in a condition, and that they work with staff to enhance and create a more buildable detail for staff to approve with additional trim. I think that can be a good condition. Does that make sense, everybody?
I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Other comments or discussion points that I heard were rear elevation. Rear elevation brackets, rear elevation number of windows, And then also the side elevation, and I'm gonna get the direction wrong. I don't
It's
know
the
if
south.
South side.
I don't even, just the siding, the side that has the dining room on it. Don't have to pay attention to cardinal rules.
Conversation.
I think the pair of windows, the center pair of windows in the dining room adds a window to that elevation and still does not remove any kind of blank wall space for TV and paintings and artwork and all that kind of thing and family photographs. I think a pair of windows is good, centered in the dining room, and helps rectify staff's problem with that elevation. Yeah, I think a little more attention has to be paid to how far apart are the brackets? How wide is that porch? How do the light fixtures fit in there? They'll hit those problems when they start construction. But it'd be nice if that was worked out on paper in drawing ahead of time.
Should the detail match the front of the house and the back of the house, or does it not matter?
That's almost getting into
With more-
design.
But they're both appropriate?
Design style or design, subjectivity. But the fact that both ends of the house should have brackets on it because they're, one's visible from the alley, one's visible from the street, which is a staff concern. That's, we can comment maybe on the size of it or the scale of it, but,
I don't have an issue with the bracket detailing being different, that it's rectilinear in the front and it's curved in the back. The back is a little different condition. The overhang is larger, so there's an opportunity for that bracket being a little more decorative, something a little different. I'm okay with that. It could go either way, but if that's something that the applicant really wanted to be able to do and kind of express that a little bit differently, I think that that's appropriate.
And then how about the setback from 23 as opposed to 26 where the other home is?
Well, what we didn't get and that was on my list of things to ask was what is zoning? What is zoning mandate? What's the minimum? And he said that the applicant did say something along the line like 20 foot is typical, but that didn't exactly address legally what is the legal minimum, and that one house is 26, and that he assumed 20 foot for the empty lot. I think the more critical part was that if we did mandate something further deeper back, that 20-inch oak tree and its drip line starts to become an issue with the foundations. And that's why I didn't even make
It's already in the
a point of that.
protective radius. So.
Yeah.
Ron, can you answer the question about zoning setback?
In Seminole Heights, Ron Vila, staff for Historic Preservation. In Seminole Heights, it's a SHRS zoning classification, which is a little different than anywhere else. So they have a BTL, build to line, and the build to line is, as he stated, vacant property is 20. The house that's shown to the north is at 26. So you take the average of that. In all the other historic districts, there is a block averaging. We take a variety of the historic homes, not all the construction. There might be some houses that are built in the 70s or 80s that really don't factor into the setbacks. So we take an average of the historic homes as well. We did look at that internally, and what they presented at the 23 is within that block averaging as well. They had that information, they just didn't show it today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ron.
So I do want to ask everybody else's opinion on the skirt below the windows. I mean, does anybody else feel that is appropriate or not? Or I mean, how's everybody? It just looks thin down there to me. And again, I don't know if historically that's appropriate, or if that was just something that needs to be added here too.
I think that's another question for Ron, if we can do that.
Ron Vila, staff for Historic Preservation. So this is a question that comes up, and it's a lot of discussion for the ARC and the BLC. We have two boards. So that foundation enclosure, or how it's treated, at times we have the stem wall that's completely stucco. At times they engage some kind of,
Ron, I'm asking about on the windows.
oh, excuse me.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Okay.
A trim board below the windows.
So
Because
his-
right now, it's just a sill, just a thin sill. I mean, what's appropriate?
So historically, you have a 2-inch sill on a slant, no skirt board, a 2-inch sill. You have your vertical members, your casings are 5-inch on a single window, and then up top, you have your header that hangs over an inch as the sill does. That completes the historic
So
trim
you're saying
that's
no
applied
skirt.
over the siding.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you applied over the siding, so you get that little profile.
Yeah, okay.
You're correct, a lot of times in new construction, the sill is very dainty. They had called out a true 2-inch sill.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Myers, you about to?
Did you jot down some notes?
I do have some notes. And I will now, so we're going to add brackets on the gable for the west elevation. The three best, the
The
three
rear
brackets.
elevation, yes.
Yeah,
To match the front
and then they can be different on the cover
Porch.
for the porch.
on the porch.
Okay.
And the porch ones should be coordinated with wall sconces. The location of them, the width of them should be coordinated with wall sconce locations.
My attitude is I don't think the lighting has been thought through at all,
Right,
and that definitely needs to be coordinated through staff.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the column
Actually,
proportions.
the applicant did mention that they had recessed cans in their front porch ceiling.
They did.
They
also
did.
said they were gonna have hanging lights, and they said they
Yeah,
were gonna
okay,
have
yeah.
carriage lights.
Yeah. So, we'll just say the location of the sconces, we're gonna ask them to coordinate the location of the sconces with, and because I don't think there really is any space for hanging lights.
Or hanging lights. Well, no, but they presented them. That was
Okay.
part of their presentation, so, I mean, that has
All
to
right.
be clarified. And staff can clarify that. I think there could be one on the rear porch. I don't think there should be one. I don't think there's space for one on the front porch because it's a flat roof. You're gonna walk your head into it. Yeah.
I agree. I don't
Yeah,
think
I don't
there's
see it.
room. It's low.
Yeah.
Do you have more comments?
Nope.
Well, last one, which I don't think we brought up, and I don't think the discussion was ended, was the welcome wall.
Right.
I think it's perfectly appropriate to have one that engages with the two front piers. You know, to cover the side of the stairs, to not have the stairs sides exposed. I think that's totally appropriate.
Okay.
I think one of the
Because it's an
pictures
ugly
that
thing
was shown
to
didn't
expose the
have-
side of a concrete stair.
Yes.
I could go either way with it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like I defer, but one of the pictures that was shown didn't have walls.
The walls.
That was the darker picture that of the two. The one had
Right.
the wall in between.
And that probably the welcome wall.
Yeah, one had.
They should
one-
consider, that they consider it and approve, and get those approved with staff as far as the detailing of it goes.
It seems safer, but
Okay.
It's also just easier to cover up the ends of the stairs, or sides of the stairs. Instead of trying to make it look pretty.
Okay. fine.
So are we gonna suggest that the brick veneer be removed?
Yes, on the sides and the rear,
And what, and just the
just on the front
board
columns.
goes all the way down?
No, it's a stucco finish,
Just stucco
horizontal
finish.
stucco finish. The
Okay.
board does not go all the way down.
And
Okay,
again, this
so-
is gonna be whoever makes the motion.
Okay, I am now going to read back the possible conditions. Okay, so the false piers to be removed below the horizontal siding. The column proportions should match the detail on sheet 5. We request that they add brackets to the gable on the west elevation, that they coordinate all exterior light fixtures with the staff, and that they add a window to the south elevation in the dining room.
So that was 5, correct?
Yes?
Okay. So do you wanna put that into a motion?
Well,
Yes, I can.
But, do we need to say on the columns? that they are gonna work with staff, because I think it's more than, just saying that it's on the detail on sheet 5. I think they need to work with the staff more, because there's some other inconsistencies that I would worry about, but, can we do that, or no?
Well,
It's, number one, it puts I feel that it puts a lot of responsibility on staff. And without, because it's a fine line between wanting to grab someone's hand and say, do it like this.
Right. And what you prefer, and what's a better detail, and what's a better proportion, rather than what the owner wants to build their house out of.
yeah, I would think you need to articulate your concerns.
Okay.
Because I do agree that that new construction in the historic districts tends to have these truncated pyramidal columns that are not very well done.
They're not very well proportioned.
No,
You just never see.
You had brought up the connection.
Yeah,
to the degree.
I mean, there was a photograph that was presented, and I don't know if we can bring that back
No.
up, or if we're done with that.
We
but-
would have to,
No.
Okay. There was a photograph that was presented that had, and I should have called it out, but when we were talking, or she was discussing the paint, and it had a picture of a column that looked more in the detailing of what I would be looking for.
Right. Better, just better.
Better,
It was the
Just better.
picture that
The columns
showed
have to be
the
detailed
house
better.
colors
yes,
of that green and that alabaster, was that the picture that?
I think,
Which we don't pay attention
Yeah,
to
that's
anyway,
right.
because it's colors.
yeah, I think, but anyway, I'm not sure how to articulate that, without,
They just have to be better.
yeah, right.
Is it the thickness of some of the wood? Is it?
No, it's not that. It's that their column detail drawing on sheet 5 is the best. It's not consistent with the detail, their section through the porch, I don't think.
I understand that. So let's look at this sheet 5. Is the proportion between the brick pedestal and the wood
Yes.
appropriate?
And the
Yes,
taper.
yes, but there also needs to be a piece of trim that is running across
At the
the
top and the
top
bottom.
and at the bottom.
Then it states that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, there you go.
okay, so I don't know where that piece,
So-
the top and bottom of what?
Okay, can I show you?
Yeah.
Here's the column, all right? But there also should be, here's a trim at the top, a cap. But there should be a piece of trim,
We all need to see what you're looking at.
okay? There also needs to be,
Can we put that exhibit back up?
yeah, can we?
Yeah.
What sheet is
Put
that?
it up here,
Yeah.
but it's gotta be something that
He sketched it.
Yeah,
Well, no, it has to be up on the model.
No, he's drawn a drawing. No, he's drawn a drawing.
Oh, it's not sheet 5? Yeah,
Yeah.
there's sheet 5, but
okay,
that shows the caps.
okay, all right. We can do it that way.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, we can't draw.
I'm not. Wow, that's not very good.
Hopefully it'll come in.
Really zoom in, Ron, on the bottom right-hand drawing. Yeah.
Oh, it's getting better.
There we go.
There it's.
Okay, all right. So that to me is what I think a successful execution should be. But I think that there should be, you can see how on the tapered part of the column, there is trim boards on each side. I think that there should be a trim board at the top. Yeah, at the top and at the bottom.
A base. and a-
Yeah, before you get to the, before you get to, as it sits on the brick pier and its cap. So sitting on that cap should be a piece of horizontal trim, the same width. And there should be a piece of horizontal trim at the capital, before it hits the cap.
Okay.
Again, this is what the house has going for it, is
Okay.
Are these
So
nice
I
details?
think we understand what's going on.
And then do you have your recommendation about the wall? We want to restate it. How about we restate it?
Well, so far, are you up for a motion and adding that to the motion?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. And I think that we can, so we'll have the removal of the false piers below the horizontal siding.
Yep.
The column proportions should match the detail on sheet 5 with adding horizontal trim between the verticals at each corner,
Top and bottom.
top and bottom. Okay, top and bottom. We want to add gables, brackets for the gable on the west end, coordinate exterior light fixtures with staff, and add a window on the south elevation in the dining room. Okay.
Okay, just for clarification, did we want those windows centered on the dining room?
They can put them anywhere they want on the dining room,
Okay.
A pair of,
but a pair of windows.
yeah, so they would be paired in the same way that they are in the front elevation.
Okay. So I have a motion. Do I have a second for that motion?
No, he hasn't motioned.
Now I have to,
Oh.
there's other,
Go ahead.
let's see here. You have to excuse me because I have to get the case number and the location in front of me. Move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 24-00000235 for the property located at 4908 North Suwannee Avenue with the following conditions. That the false piers be removed below the horizontal siding, that column proportions should match the detail on sheet 5 with horizontal trim added between the vertical trim at each corner, that at top and bottom, that brackets be added on the gable for the west elevation, that all exterior light fixtures shall be coordinated with staff, and that a window shall be added in the dining room paired with the existing window.
Okay.
Because, based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Seminole Heights design guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons. That the application is consistent in scale, in massing and building form, in setback, and maintains the materials used commonly in the district.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. So with the applicant, we have conditions. Do you understand the conditions
Yes.
that were part of this motion?
Yes,
Do you agree to these conditions?
yes.
Okay. All right, the applicant has agreed to the conditions. We have a motion that's been seconded. All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
You get to hit the hammer.
Nope,
Not yet.
not yet.
Motion to receive and file.
Yeah.
Oh,
Motion
I-
to receive and and file submitted documents and exhibits.
I move that we receive and file all documents exhibit presented this evening.
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
All right, public hearing is adjourned.